So the way we start this is we open up an Illustrator file, and I know ahead of time that the image that I have is taller than it is wide. So when I choose New, and I'm going to go to Print, and instead of points, I want it set for inches. And because it is taller, my width should be 12, and my height should be 15. Now, if you had something that was wider than it was tall, then you should go with a width of 15 and a height of 12. Either way works. So we hit Create. We have a document window, and now we're going to place the image that we're going to be tracing. So go to File and Place, and then I choose my photo and I place it in the document. Now, you can also bring in a photo, if you remember, as a template, and this is going to be a template. The reason that I'm not doing that is because the image is not the same size as the document. So I want to expand that to fill the screen. And so I'm going to go and create a template by myself. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to drag this into the center. Then I'm going to hold down the Shift key so I preserve the dimensions so it doesn't get all wonky. I'm holding down Shift key. And I might bring it a little bit more to the center, but I'm intentionally leaving the bottle element not in the center. I want it to be a little bit off center. I think that creates a more dynamic image. So once that's been done, I'm going to move over and I want to change the opacity of this. I don't want it to be so dark because that's going to interfere with my drawing. To do that, I'm going to go over here to the appearance icon, and I'm going to click on appearance. If you don't see anything that I'm referring to in this icon panel, you can always access it through the Windows panel up here. As you can tell, if you drift down, you will see appearances right there. But I'm going to use the icon panel here, and I'm going to go down to opacity, and I'm going to bring my opacity down to about 70. 69, 70, something along there. It makes it just a little bit lighter, and it makes it easier for me to see the lines that I'm going to be using. All right, once I've done that, I just want to lock this in place, and I don't want it to move when I'm doing my tracing. So I'm going to go down to the Layers panel. And once I'm down at the Layers panel, what I'm going to do is click right here and just lock it. So I've locked this layer. And all the drawing I'm going to be doing is going to be on another layer. So I'm going to drift down to here to the Create New Layer icon. And I'm going to click on that and make layer 2. Make sure that's highlighted. That means that you're working in that layer. If you start working in layer 1, because it's locked, it won't let you do anything. So just kind of make sure it's in the right place. Okay, so I'm ready to trace. I'm going to start by tracing the grapes. So I'm going to zoom in by Command plus, and I'm going to hold on to the space bar so I can scroll where I want. And what I'm going to do, at least initially, so that I can see the grapes and see them as I trace them, I'm going to first of all go up to the Shape tool and choose the Ellipse tool. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure that it has a stroke, a 1-point stroke, and no fill. You can actually access them this way here. So the 1-point stroke is fine, but I have to go to the fill and choose nothing. The reason being is I want to be able to see all the outlines. I'm going to change that later, but that's what I'm doing right now. Now I'm going to actually look at my collection of grapes in front of me, and I'm going to trace them from the grapes in the back forward, and that will make sense once I start to fill them in. Okay, so I see a number of grapes that are in the back, and so the traditional way of using the ellipse tool I've been showing you to make a perfect circle is basically to hold down the Shift key and click drag. Now, in this case, if you'll notice, these aren't complete circles, so I kind of estimate just by click dragging without holding down the Shift key. And notice what happens. I'm trying to draw a circle around here. However, the circles are always made from the point and then you drag down. It's a little hard to control there. So the one thing that I do in order to make this easier is I hold down the Option key, and that allows a circle to grow from the midpoint. So holding down the Option key allows me to make that circle. Now it's not perfect yet, and I'm going to go back and correct some of this stuff, but right now I'm just going to go and generally find the grapes in the back and moving forward and create my circles. Okay, generally I have all the circles I need. I might have to fill in some of them, but as you can tell, they're a little off center. They are not conforming to the shape. This is when I use both my selection tool and my direct selection tool. Now I use my selection tool just to move the whole shape into place, and I use my direct selection tool to find the various points and change the shape to more conform to the grapes. So instead of drifting up to the toolbar every time I need to do this, I just remember the keyboard shortcuts V and A. V is the selection tool and A is the direct selection tool. So I'll show you how those work. So I'm going to start with V and use my selection tool, and I'm going to click on, let's see, I'm probably going to click on this guy right here because he's really out of whack. And I'm just going to move him into place. Now I'm going to use A for my direct selection tool, and that allows me to activate the individual anchor points. So I can just click on them and move them into place, and I can make the grapes look more grape shaped. And then I move to the next one. I move this guy. I'm probably going to, he's probably fine in terms of position, so I'm going to just keep the direct selection tool and just move him, make him a little bit bigger, kind of to fill that space a little bit. What I can do at this point is select them all. So I'm going to use my selection tool, or V, hit V, and I'm going to select all the circles I've made. And now instead of having 0 fill, I'm going to have a fill of white. Now at this point, I'm going to click off of it for a second. You can tell why it makes sense to start from the back forward, because the back ones are now appearing to be behind the grapes in the front. I still see some errors and some empty spaces, so I can still continue to go use my direct selection tool, make something larger. And the other thing I could do is maybe make a few extra grapes in here. Now these are going to go in the front, which we don't want. But what I can do is I can send them to the back. And the way I do that is go through Object, Arrange, Send to Back. All right. So now it's time to trace the bottle. So I start at one place. I'm going to trace the outline of the bottle, and after I'm through tracing the outline of the bottle, I'm going to trace some of the interior details. If you are using the pen tool, your pen tool has a variety of different options, right? It's the normal pen tool, but if you hit the command key, it turns into the direct selection tool, which is great for moving Bezier handles. If you use the option key, it uses the convert anchor point tool. So that basically turns something that is a round curve into something with an angle, or vice versa. So I'm going to start at the top of the bottle, and I'm going to use Command plus to move forward. All right. So I'm going to start here, and I'm going to click and drag just a little bit, just so that I can make sure I have the curve of the top. And you can also choose the white one from here. Now it's sitting in front, which is not where we want it. Remember, we can actually send that to the back. So we can go arrange, send to back. This object, I still need to trace the wine glass, which moves in front. So I'm going to turn off that. And that allows me to trace it. So to do the level of wine, I'm going to go here. I'm going to go all the way to this side. And then I'm just going to come back. Now I think it's time to fill. So in order to fill, I grab this. I fill with white. I grab this. Fill that one with white as well. Now the thing that can be problematic here is that this part is filled with white and it's blocking out this, right? So I'm thinking maybe we don't fill that with white. Instead we keep that empty. Now that's going to be fine, because what we're going to do is go up to layers, and for the last bit we're going to turn that off. And then I look and I see this character needs to move further back. Object, arrange, send to back. And then once I send it to the back, I know it's all the way down here, and I just bring this path up one, and then I get what I want at that point. Okay, there's just a couple more things to be done. First of all, I don't quite believe what's going on here. You wouldn't see a bottle perfectly through there, so I'm thinking I'm going to fill the glass. So I'm going to click on the glass with my selection tool, make sure that's selected, and then go and fill it with white. Now the problem with that is, if you look, that what the level of wine on the bottle is now kind of going into the glass, so we can't have that. But I can actually fix that with the selection tool as well. I can click on it and just drag it in a little bit just so it touches the edge. And now it kind of looks like the wine glass is sitting in front of the bottle and the grapes are sitting in front of the wine glass. The last thing I'm going to do is select some type. So I'm going to select something light because this is pretty light. And so I'm going to do American Typewriter Light. Again, choose your own font. I'm going to type, that's actually kind of too small, but it's Vino. In order to have the maximum amount of flexibility in terms of the words, I'm going to only do one word at a time. Again, Vino is a bit small, so right now it's 12 point. I'm going to drift up to here, and instead of 12 point, I'm going to make it 48 point. So 48 point. To click out of a text, I'm going to go back to the selection tool. That just selects me out of there, and so when I go back to text, it's independent. And I'm going to put D, and then I'm going to go back, and then hit the type tool again, and Primavera. All right. Now I can use my selection tool to move these into place. I'm also looking to make sure the space is relatively equal between them. All right. So there is the finished poster 1.